The voicemail came through at 2:47 in the afternoon while I was getting my third round of chemotherapy. My name is Ben Torres, I'm 38 years old, and 6 months ago my wife Amanda told me I was dead weight, before she cleaned out our bank accounts and disappeared with her personal trainer. The message was from a law firm in downtown Seattle. Mr. Torres, this is regarding the estate of Harold Jameson. Please call us back at your earliest convenience. It's urgent. I stared at my phone, the 4-drip feeding poison into my veins to kill the stage 3 colon cancer that had turned my life upside down. Harold Jameson was my uncle, my mother's older brother. I hadn't seen him in almost 15 years, not since my wedding in 2010. He'd lived alone in Montana, worked as a mining engineer his whole life, never married, no kids. I didn't call back right away. I was too tired, too sick, too broken to care about whatever this was. Let me back up and explain how I ended up here. Alone in a chemotherapy chair with a phone full of missed calls and a bank account showing $127.53. I met Amanda Carver at a community college networking event in 2009. I was 23, working as an apprentice electrician during the day and taking business classes at night. She was 21, studying to be a dental hygienist, beautiful in a way that made me nervous to talk to her. We got married a year later at a small ceremony in Tacoma. Her parents paid for most of it since I was still building my career. My uncle Harold flew down from Butte, gave us a card with $500 in it, shook my hand, and told me to treat marriage like a long-term investment. Then he flew back to Montana and I didn't hear from him again. Amanda and I built a decent life together. I started my own electrical contracting business in 2014, Torres Electric Solutions. Nothing fancy, just me and eventually 2 other guys doing residential and small commercial jobs around the Seattle area. We made good money, somewhere around $90,000 a year by 2023. Amanda worked at a dental office in Bellevue, pulling in about $42,000 annually. We bought a small house in Renton in 2017, 3 bedrooms with a garage I converted into my workshop. We talked about kids but never quite got around to it. There was always something, more money to save, better timing to wait for, one more vacation to take first. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but it was solid. Or so I thought. In January 2024, I started having stomach problems. Bad cramps, blood in my stool, weight loss I couldn't explain. I ignored it for 2 months because I was busy and stupid and 37 years old, which felt too young to worry about serious health issues. By March, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Amanda finally convinced me to see a doctor. The colonoscopy was scheduled for March 22nd. I remember joking with Amanda the night before about the awful prep drink I had to chug. She laughed, kissed my forehead, told me everything would be fine. The doctor found the tumor during the procedure. Stage 3 colon cancer, already spread to some nearby lymph nodes. I woke up in recovery and saw Amanda's face, and I knew something was terribly wrong before anyone said a word. The oncologist laid it out plainly. Aggressive treatment, surgery to remove part of my colon, followed by 6 months of chemotherapy. Survival rate was decent if we caught it in time, maybe 70% chance of making it 5 years. The cost would be enormous even with insurance. My deductible was $8,000, and the out-of-pocket maximum was $15,000 per year. Plus I'd have to stop working during treatment, which meant losing most of our income. Amanda took it hard. Really hard. For the first week, she seemed supportive. She came to my appointments, held my hand, said all the right things. But I noticed small changes. She stopped sleeping in our bed, claiming my restlessness kept her awake. She started going to the gym more often, sometimes twice a day. Her phone was always face down on the table. The surgery happened on April 15th. They removed 18 inches of my colon and 12 lymph nodes. The recovery was brutal. 2 weeks of barely being able to move without pain. Amanda visited me in the hospital twice during my 5-day stay. The first time, she stayed for 20 minutes and spent most of it on her phone. The second time, she brought me a card and some magazines, then left after 10 minutes because she had a work thing. My buddy from high school, Oscar Mendez, visited more than my own wife did. Oscar brought me books, sat with me, made stupid jokes to keep my spirits up. He owned a landscaping company and had known me since we were kids. "Where's Amanda?" he asked on day 3. "Busy with work," I said, which was the lie I'd been telling myself. Oscar didn't look convinced, but he didn't push it. I came home on April 20th to an empty house. Amanda had left a note on the kitchen counter. "Had to work late. Dinner is in the fridge. Feel better." The dinner was a frozen meal she'd microwaved. Over the next 2 weeks, Amanda became a ghost in our own home. She left early for work, came back late, spent weekends running errands that took 6 or 7 hours. When she was home, she was distant, cold, checked out. I started chemotherapy on May 6th. The first session destroyed me. I spent 3 days throwing up, too weak to get out of bed, feeling like my entire body was turning itself inside out. Amanda didn't come home those 3 days. She sent a text, "Staying at my mom's. Need some space to think." On May 10th, I called her. She answered on the 5th ring. "We need to talk," I said. "I know," she replied. "I'll come by tomorrow." She showed up at 11 a.m. on May 11th, Saturday morning. I was sitting on the couch, bald from the chemo, weighing 30 pounds less than I had 2 months earlier, exhausted just from the effort of showering. Amanda sat across from me, not beside me. That told me everything I needed to know. "I can't do this anymore, Ben," she said, not meeting my eyes. "This isn't what I signed up for." "What do you mean?" I asked, though I already knew. "You're sick. You're going to be sick for months, maybe years. You can't work. You can barely take care of yourself. I can't be your nurse and your wife. It's too much." The words hung in the air like smoke. "I have cancer, Amanda. I didn't choose this." "I know," she said, and her voice was flat, empty. "But I get to choose whether I stay or not. And I'm choosing to leave." I sat there, trying to process what she was saying. My wife of 14 years was leaving me because I got cancer. "We made vows," I said quietly, "in sickness and in health." "That's just words, Ben. This is real life. You're dead. Wait now, and I'm not dragging you around for the next year while you maybe survive or maybe don't." Dead weight. Those 2 words hit harder than the cancer diagnosis had. "What about our accounts?" I asked. "The business? The house?" "I already talked to a lawyer," Amanda said, pulling papers from her purse. "I'm filing for divorce. These are temporary orders. You can stay in the house for now, but I need half of everything else." "Half of what?" I said, my voice rising despite my weakness. "I can't work. The business is shut down. Our savings is going to medical bills." "Then you should have thought about that before getting sick," she said. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. She stood up, dropped the papers on the coffee table, and walked toward the door. "I already moved the money," she said without turning around. "Our savings, the business account, everything. It's in my personal account now. My lawyer says I'm entitled to it as marital property." "Amanda, that's $78,000. That's everything we have. I need that for treatment, for bills." She turned back, and her face was stone. "Should have gotten better insurance," she said. "My lawyer will be in touch." Then she left. I sat on that couch for 3 hours, the divorce papers untouched beside me, trying to understand how my wife had become someone I didn't recognize. The next day, I checked our accounts. She'd taken everything. The joint savings, the business account, even the emergency fund we'd built up over 10 years. $78,412. Gone. My personal checking account had the $127 from a client payment that had just cleared. I called my bank. They said since they were joint accounts, she had legal right to withdraw everything. I'd have to take it up with the divorce court. I called the lawyer whose name was on the divorce papers. His assistant said he couldn't speak to me directly since he represented Amanda, but that I should get my own attorney. Get my own attorney with what money? If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new, unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. Over the next month, my life became a blur of chemotherapy sessions, crushing medical bills, and desperate attempts to keep my head above water. I sold my truck to pay for treatment. I borrowed money from Oscar. I maxed out 2 credit cards just to keep the mortgage current. I lost 48 pounds. My hair fell out completely. Some days I was too weak to walk to the bathroom without resting halfway. And through it all, Amanda sent nothing. No check-in texts, no concern about whether I was alive or dead. Nothing except legal documents demanding her share of a house she'd abandoned and a business that no longer existed. Her lawyer was aggressive, pushing for a court date, claiming I was hiding assets, threatening to put a lien on the house. I couldn't afford a lawyer, so I represented myself in the preliminary hearings. I showed up to court in a wheelchair because I was too weak to stand for long periods, holding a folder of medical bills and bank statements. The judge, a woman named Francine Young, looked at me with something between pity and frustration. "Mr. Torres, do you have legal representation?" "No, Your Honor. I can't afford it." Amanda's lawyer, a man named Preston Grimes who wore suits that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, stood up. "Your Honor, my client has been more than patient. Mr. Torres claims poverty while living in a house with equity worth at least $200,000. We're simply asking for equitable distribution of marital assets." I wanted to scream that Amanda had taken all our liquid assets and left me to die, but the words wouldn't come out right. The chemo brain fog made it hard to think clearly, to argue effectively. Judge Young set a trial date for September 15th and ordered us to attempt mediation. The mediation was a disaster. Amanda showed up tan and healthy, wearing new clothes, her hair freshly cut. She sat next to Preston Grimes and avoided looking at me. The mediator, an older man named Howard Kim, tried to find common ground. "Mrs. Torres, your husband is currently undergoing cancer treatment. Would you consider a temporary support arrangement?" "He has a house," Amanda said coldly. "He can sell it or take out a loan. I'm not responsible for his medical problems." "You're still married," Howard Kim pointed out. "Not for long," she replied. The mediation ended after 4 to 5 minutes with no agreement. I went home to my empty house, ate crackers because I couldn't keep anything else down, and wondered if it would be easier to just give up. That's when Oscar came by with dinner he'd made himself. Chicken soup that was bland enough for my destroyed stomach. "You look terrible, brother," he said, sitting at my kitchen table. "Feel worse than I look," I replied. "What's the latest with Amanda?" I told him everything. The divorce, the money, the mediation. Oscar's face darkened. "She took 78 grand and left you with nothing? While you're doing chemo?" "Yep. That's evil, man. That's straight up evil." I didn't disagree. "You need help," Oscar said. "Let me loan you money for a lawyer. A real one." "I can't take your money, Oscar. You've got your own family to support." "Then let me help another way," he said. "I know a guy, works as a private investigator. Used to be a cop. Maybe he can find something on Amanda, something that helps your case." "Like what?" "I don't know," Oscar admitted. "But women don't just change overnight like she did. Something else is going on." He had a point. The Amanda I'd married wouldn't have done this. Something had changed her, and I'd been too sick to see it happening. "What's this investigator's name?" I asked. "Gilbert Pacheco. He owes me a favor from when I did his whole yard for free last year. Let me call him." 2 days later, Gilbert Pacheco sat in my living room. He was 45, stocky, with a shaved head and careful eyes that seemed to notice everything. "Oscar says you're getting screwed in a divorce," Gilbert said bluntly. "That's putting it mildly." I explained the situation. Gilbert took notes on a small pad, asking questions about timelines, Amanda's behavior changes, her new habits. "The gym membership," Gilbert said. "When did that start?" "Maybe February?" She'd gone before, but it became constant around then. "Same gym each time?" "Yeah, Premium Fitness in Bellevue." "Why?" Gilbert smiled slightly. In my experience, when a married woman suddenly becomes a gym rat, there's usually a specific motivation. Let me look into it. I can't pay you, I said. I'm broke. Oscar's favor covers the first 20 hours, Gilbert said. After that, we'll work something out. Maybe you do the electrical work on my house once you're healthy. If I get healthy, I thought but didn't say. Gilbert started his investigation on June 5th. I continued my chemotherapy, each session leaving me weaker but also one step closer to finishing treatment. On June 20th, Gilbert came back to my house with a folder full of photographs. You're going to want to sit down for this, he said. The photos showed Amanda with a man I recognized from her Instagram posts. His name was Trent Voss, one of the personal trainers at Premium Fitness. Young, muscular, the kind of guy who posted shirtless selfies with motivational quotes. In the photos, they were together at restaurants, at his apartment, holding hands, kissing in a parking lot. The timestamps on the photos ranged from March 25th to June 18th. March 25th. 3 days after my cancer diagnosis. She started seeing him almost immediately after you got sick, Gilbert said quietly. I talked to some people at the gym. They've been together since late March, pretty much out in the open about it. I looked at the photos, feeling nothing. I was beyond anger, beyond hurt. I was just empty. There's more, Gilbert continued. Trent Voss has a history. He's been involved with 3 other married women from that gym in the past 2 years. One of them divorced her husband and gave Voss $50,000 to invest in his personal training business. The business never materialized. She's currently suing him for fraud. So he's a con artist, I said. Seems that way. And I'm guessing Amanda doesn't know about his pattern. I thought about that. How do we prove she gave him money? Gilbert pulled out more papers. I have a contact at Bank of America. Can't get into accounts legally, but I can see external transfers. Your wife has made 4 transfers to Trent Voss since April, totaling $32,000. $32,000 of our money, given to her boyfriend. Can we use this in court? I asked. Absolutely. Washington is a no-fault divorce state, but marital funds being transferred to a third party during separation? That's called dissipation of assets. The judge can make her reimburse the marital estate for that money. For the first time in months, I felt something close to hope. There's one more thing, Gilbert said, pulling out a final document. I ran a background check on Amanda. She filed for a credit card in May, using your social security number. Maxed it out at $15,000. That's identity theft. I stared at the credit card statement. Charges at expensive restaurants, shopping trips, a weekend at a resort in Oregon. All while I was going through chemotherapy. What do I do with this? I asked. You could file a police report, Gilbert said. But that would get messy. Or you save it as leverage. Tell her lawyer you have evidence of identity theft and dissipation of assets. See if they want to settle quietly. I thought about Amanda, the woman I'd loved for 14 years, who'd become someone capable of stealing my identity while I fought for my life. Let's use it as leverage, I said. I want her to face consequences, but I also just want this over. Gilbert nodded. I'll prepare a report for your court case. I still don't have a lawyer, I reminded him. About that, Gilbert said. I know someone who might help. Her name is Judith Lau. She does divorce law, takes some pro bono cases for cancer patients. Let me make a call. 3 days later, I met Judith Lau in her office in downtown Seattle. She was 52, sharp-eyed, with gray hair cut short and a reputation for being ruthless in court. Gilbert sent me your case file, Judith said after we sat down. Your wife is a piece of work. That's one way to put it. Here's what I can do, Judith said. I'll take your case pro bono through the trial. If we recover money from Amanda, you pay me 15% of whatever we get. If we don't recover anything, you owe me nothing except the electrical work on my office building. Deal? I shook her hand. Deal. Judith moved fast. By July 2nd, she'd filed an emergency motion to freeze Amanda's assets and an amended response to the divorce petition that included evidence of the affair, the money transfers, and the credit card fraud. Amanda's lawyer, Preston Grimes, called Judith the day he received the filing. I wasn't on the call, but Judith told me later that Grimes had been extremely agitated and wanted to meet immediately. The meeting happened on July 8th at Judith's office. Amanda came with Preston Grimes. I was there with Judith. It was the first time I'd seen Amanda in almost 2 months. She looked good, healthy, like she'd been living her best life while I'd been fighting to survive. She still wouldn't look at me. Preston Grimes opened his briefcase and put on his reading glasses. "My client is prepared to offer a settlement," he said. "She'll return $30,000 to Mr. Torres and agree to an unequal distribution of the house proceeds. 70% to Mr. Torres, 30% to Mrs. Torres." Judith didn't even pretend to consider it. "Counteroffer," she said calmly. "Mrs. Torres returns all $78,000 taken from marital accounts, reimburses the marital estate for the $32,000 given to her boyfriend, drops all claims to the house, and pays Mr. Torres's legal fees. In exchange, we don't file criminal charges for identity theft." Amanda finally looked at me, and for the first time I saw fear in her eyes. "You can't prove identity theft," Preston said, but his voice lacked confidence. Judith slid a folder across the table. "Credit card application with Mr. Torres's social security number. Signature analysis showing it was forged. Mr. Torres's testimony that he never authorized the application. That's identity theft under Washington state law, RCW 9.35.020. Up to 10 years in prison." The room went silent. "Additionally," Judith continued, "we have evidence that Mrs. Torres transferred $32,000 in marital funds to Trent Voss, her boyfriend. That's dissipation of assets. The court will make her pay that back regardless of any settlement." Preston Grimes whispered urgently with Amanda. She was shaking her head, tears starting to form. "We need time to consider this," Preston said finally. "You have 24 hours, Judith replied. "After that, we file criminal charges and proceed to trial. The photographs of your client with Mr. Voss will become public record. I'm sure her employer would be interested to know she's been spending work hours with her personal trainer." We left the office. In the elevator, I finally asked Judith the question that had been bothering me. "Can we actually file criminal charges? I don't really want her to go to prison." "Technically yes," Judith said, "but realistically, the prosecutor might not pursue it. Identity theft cases are complicated when it's between spouses. However, Amanda doesn't know that. The threat is enough." The next 24 hours were the longest of my life. I was scheduled for chemotherapy the next day, my second to last session. I sat in the treatment chair, poison dripping into my veins, wondering if Amanda would call our bluff. At 4:38 p.m., my phone rang. Judith's name on the screen. "She settled," Judith said. "Full terms. 78,000 returned, 32,000 reimbursed for the boyfriend transfers. She keeps nothing from the house, and she's paying your legal fees." I closed my eyes, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. "The money should be in your account by end of business tomorrow," Judith continued. "I'm emailing you the settlement agreement now. Sign it and send it back." "Thank you," I said, and my voice cracked. "Thank you so much." "You're welcome, Ben. You deserved better than what she did to you." After I hung up, Oscar came over that evening with Chinese food. "I heard," he said, grinning. "Judith called me. Said you cleaned up." "I got back what was mine," I said. "That's not really cleaning up." "You got back what was yours from a woman who tried to steal everything while you were dying," Oscar corrected. "That's justice, brother." The settlement money hit my account on July 10th. $110,000. The original $78,000, the $32,000 Amanda had given to Trent, and since Preston Grimes had advised Amanda poorly throughout the case, the legal fees Judith charged were minimal, only about $8,000. I paid off my medical debt. I paid off my credit cards. I paid back Oscar with interest even though he protested. I had enough left to live on while I finished treatment and recovered enough to work again. The divorce was finalized on August 2nd. Amanda didn't contest anything in the final hearing. She sat quietly while Judge Yang signed the decree, ending 14 years of marriage in about 7 minutes. I felt nothing watching it happen. No sadness, no anger, just a quiet sense of closure. My last chemotherapy session was August 15th. The oncologist, Dr. Carolyn Foster, told me my scans looked good. The cancer appeared to be in remission. "You'll need regular monitoring," she said. "But you beat this, Ben. You actually beat it." I cried in the parking lot of the cancer center, sitting in the used Honda Civic I'd bought to replace my truck. I cried for everything I'd lost and everything I'd survived. Then I called my Uncle Harold's lawyer, the one who'd left me that voicemail 4 months earlier. His name was Stanley Webb, and his office was in Missoula, Montana. "Mr. Torres," he said when his secretary connected us. "I'm glad you finally called back. I've been trying to reach you for months." "I'm sorry," I said. "I had some things to deal with." "I understand," Stanley said. "I need to inform you that your Uncle Harold passed away on April 2nd. He named you as the sole beneficiary of his estate." I sat up straighter in my car. I hadn't talked to Harold in 15 years. "He was aware of that," Stanley said. "But you were his only living relative after your mother passed. His estate includes his home in Butte, some land, and various investments. Total value is approximately $1.4 million. The world seemed to tilt sideways. "What? 1.4 million, Stanley repeated. "Your uncle lived modestly but invested wisely. Mining engineers make good money, and Harold never spent much of his. It's all yours, Mr. Torres. I'll need you to come to Montana to sign some paperwork, but the estate should be fully transferred within 60 days. I sat in that parking lot for an hour after hanging up, trying to process everything. My Uncle Harold, the man I'd barely known, had left me enough money to never worry about finances again. The man who told me at my wedding to treat marriage like a long-term investment had made his own investments wisely and left them to me. And Amanda, who'd called me dead weight and abandoned me to die, had settled our divorce 2 months before this money became mine. If she'd waited, if she'd stuck it out just a little longer, she would have been entitled to half of Uncle Harold's estate under Washington's community property laws. Instead, she'd walked away with nothing, while I'd walked away with everything. The irony was almost poetic. I called Oscar first. "You sitting down?" I asked. "What now?" he said, laughing. I told him about Uncle Harold, about the inheritance, about the timing. Oscar was quiet for a long moment. Then he started laughing. Really laughing. "Ben, Amanda is going to lose her mind when she finds out." "She's going to find out?" I asked. "Oh, she'll find out," Oscar said. "Small world, man. Someone will tell her. And when they do, I want to be there to see her face." I found out later that Amanda did hear about the inheritance, about 3 weeks after the divorce was final. Gilbert Pacheco, who'd stayed in touch with some people at Amanda's gym, told me that Trent Voss had dumped Amanda in late August. Once her money ran out, he moved on to his next target. Amanda had called her mother, crying, saying she'd made a terrible mistake leaving me. Her mother, who I'd always liked, told her that she'd made her bed and now had to lie in it. Then Amanda found out about Uncle Harold's estate through mutual friends. She called me 17 times in one day. I didn't answer. She left one voicemail. I listened to it once, then deleted it. "Ben, it's me. I heard about your uncle. I'm so sorry for your loss. Look, I know things ended badly between us, but we were together for 14 years. That has to count for something. Maybe we could talk? Maybe there's a way to work things out? I made mistakes. I know that now. I was scared and I handled everything wrong. But we could start over. Please call me back." I didn't call her back. Preston Grimes, her lawyer, did try one legal maneuver. He filed a motion claiming the inheritance should have been considered in the divorce settlement. Judith shut it down in one hearing. "Your Honor," she told Judge Young. Harold Jameson died on April 2nd, before separation proceedings began. However, Mr. Torres wasn't even aware of the inheritance until August 18th, 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized. The estate hadn't been transferred at the time of divorce, so it couldn't have been considered marital property. Furthermore, inheritance is separate property in Washington state unless it's been commingled with marital assets, which it hasn't been since Mr. Torres received it post-divorce. Judge Young didn't even need to deliberate. "Motion denied," she said. "Mr. Grimes, this is frivolous. Don't waste the court's time again." That was the last I heard from Amanda legally. I used some of Uncle Harold's money to restart Torres Electric Solutions. I hired back my old employees and brought on 2 more. Business was good. Turned out people appreciated a contractor who showed up on time and did quality work. I bought a new house in Kirkland, smaller than the old one but right on the water. I sold the Renton house and didn't look back. My 5U cancer checkup in August 2029 came back clean. Dr. Foster said I was officially in long-term remission. "You're one of the lucky ones," she told me. I didn't feel lucky, exactly. I felt like I'd survived something that should have killed me, both the cancer and the betrayal that came with it. Oscar and I still got together every Sunday for dinner. He'd been the brother I'd never had, the friend who'd shown up when everyone else had disappeared. "You ever think about dating again?" Oscar asked one night over barbecue. "Maybe," I said. "Eventually, when I'm ready to trust someone again." "That might take a while," Oscar said. "Yeah," I agreed. "It might." I saw Amanda one more time, completely by accident, at a grocery store in Redmond in October 2029. She looked older, tired. She was alone, pushing a cart with generic brand items. She saw me at the same moment I saw her. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she walked over, her steps hesitant. "Ben," she said quietly. "Amanda," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "You look good," she said. "Healthy." "I am. I heard your business is doing well." "It is." She stood there, clearly wanting to say more but not knowing how to start. "I was wrong," she finally said. "About everything. About leaving you, about taking the money, about Trent. I was stupid and selfish and scared. And I'm sorry." I looked at her, this woman who'd once been my whole world, who'd called me dead weight when I needed her most. "I forgive you," I said, and I meant it. Not because you deserve it, but because holding on to anger was making me sick in a different way. "But forgiving you doesn't mean I want you in my life." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "I understand. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for," I said. "I really do. But it's not going to be with me." I walked away, leaving her standing in the produce section, and I didn't look back. Sometimes I think about how close I came to dying. Not just from the cancer, but from the betrayal, from the loneliness, from giving up when everything seemed hopeless. But I didn't give up. I fought through the chemotherapy, through the divorce, through the moments when it seemed easier to just quit. And because I fought, because Oscar stood by me, because Gilbert and Judith helped me, I came out the other side stronger. Uncle Harold's inheritance wasn't what saved me. I'd already saved myself by the time that money came through. The money just proved that good things can happen to people who survive the worst moments of their lives. Amanda had called me dead weight, a burden too heavy to carry. But I wasn't dead weight. I was a fighter who'd been knocked down and got back up. And in the end, the woman who'd abandoned me got nothing, while the dead weight she'd left behind inherited a fortune and built a life worth living. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts about new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.